Well, good to see you all again, dear friends, for another little reflection on this Lenten journey we are on. And we are into the first week. We are just coming to the end of the first week of Lent. And we are preparing for the second Sunday of Lent on this Sunday. And we are in the springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere. So you look around, certainly here in Ireland, there is super evidence of new life, a new hope, and new beginnings. The daffodils are up and the spring flowers are up, and the evenings are getting a little bit longer, that much more in these days. And we've had, luckily, very pleasant weather here. It's a little bit colder now, but we've had very pleasant weather here, which does help an awful lot in seeing the opportunities for new life, new hope, and new growth. And in the north of our country, in the north and northwest of our country, earlier this week, there was beautiful, powerful and spectacular sights of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And sometimes they stretch from, Iceland and the Faroes and the Hebrides and the islands of Scotland, further down the Atlantic towards the northern part of Ireland, and it was even seen in the dark in the countryside, in the Midlands. Once the city lights start to dim and we go into the countryside, you can see spectacular night skies when there's no clouds. So we are, into the springtime, and of course, springtime also happens to be in conjunction with Lent and Easter time. Now, Lent, of course, is a time when we do tap into the fundamentals. We try to recalibrate our values and our priorities in terms of the gospel. But let's be absolutely honest, because we're not perfect, Lent is an opportunity to begin again, just like springtime is a new beginning. And the last few days, the liturgy of the word has been very powerful in that regard. I'm just going to reach over here now. I'll look at our little scriptures. In the first days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the sort of themes of the gospel were very, very powerful. All around kind of reaching out to God, calling out to God in prayer. So, for example, we had the gospel of the 1st of March, which was, of course, Wednesday, and it was, of course, the story of the sign of Jonah. Jesus, of course, was saying, it's a wicked generation, it's asking for a sign. The only sign that will be given is the sign of Jonah. And he was reminding people that fundamentally there's something greater than Jonah here. There's something greater than Solomon here. Jesus is among us. Jesus is with us. And we call out to Jesus. And we are invited, indeed we are challenged to recognize him. To recognize Jesus. How do we recognize the presence of Christ around us? How do we see Jesus in others? How do we see a mirror of Jesus in others? Then on Thursday, today, the gospel, of course, very powerfully reminded us of ask, seek, and knock. Not forgetting that on Monday, the last day, Tuesday, the last day of February, was the great Lord's Prayer, the Our Father prayer, where Jesus gives us all that we need. God gives us all that we need. Jesus teaching us, to pray for our daily bread, to pray for the material sustenance we need, but also that the Lord will be with us and in us and forgive us as we forgive others. As I said again then, today's gospel, ask and it will be given you, search and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. Because we ask with faith. There's no point in asking the Lord for something if we start to say, well, I'm not going to bother because I don't really believe, but I'll give it a try. Keep the door a little bit open. Keep the door to faith a little bit open, because the Lord will surprise us. In fact, the Lord will absolutely blow us away with his generosity, with his great gifts of richness on the inside, gifts of hope and gifts of grace. So when we ask the Lord for things, when we seek out things, and when we knock for things, let's believe that the Lord has our best interests at heart. There's a phrase that we say a lot today: you've got this. The Lord has got this. The Lord knows exactly what we need. If you then who are evil know how to give your children what is good, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And this is the real kernel of what the gospel said for today. So always treat others as you would like them to treat you. That is the meaning of the law and the prophets. Treat others as you would like them to treat you. That's the golden rule. It's common to most religions. Do unto others as you would like done unto you. Let's always treat people the way we would like to be treated. If we all did that, friends, if the world did that, there'd be no wars, there'd be no famines, there'd be no diseases, there'd be no invasions, because we would all have the heart of the person, our brother and sister, at the core. And they would have our hearts at the core. But the challenge, of course, is to try and see that. Pope Francis talked about changing, one heart at a time, reaching out to the person one heart at a time. We don't give up on that. We keep at that. Just a little bit quickly about Sunday's Gospel. And of course, Sunday's Gospel is the story of the Transfiguration, where Jesus takes with him Peter and James and John, leads them up a high mountain where they could be alone. There in their presence he was transfigured. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared to them and were talking with him. And of course Peter gets all excited and says, Lord, it's wonderful for us to be here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And of course the voice comes from heaven, this is my son, the beloved. Peter wants to keep this moment forever. And of course the Transfiguration is a powerful reminder of Jesus focusing us on the outcome of, his mission and ministry, but not for now. There's still a ways to go. There's still a journey to make. But, let's look towards the goal. Let's live for today, but let's not lose sight of what the fundamental message of the gospel is. That Jesus, is called to suffer, to die, but to rise again. And that we, in the meantime, are called to proclaim that. I know that Jesus is risen, and that the resurrection, even though the resurrection chronologically happened 2,000 years ago, it's something that happens all the time. It's not a past event in that sense. Resurrection happens all the time. We are people of the resurrection. But we travel through this journey in Lent, reminding ourselves each day of the sacrifice that Jesus made for you and me. So let us continue on our Lenten journey. Let us continue to tune into what Jesus Christ is inviting us to do together as Christian people, as people of God, as we go on our pilgrim way. And let us continue to pray for one another during Lent. Until next time, God bless.